Welcome to Motorsport on 4 from Croft near Darlington. Now, this used to be as far north as the Formula 3 and GT Circus ventured, but this year we're also going to Knock Hill in Scotland, which is virtually as far north from here as we presently are from London. We're here for round 5 of the 13 that make up the Powertour Championship, so let's start the show by taking a look at where we are in the green flag British Formula 3 Championship.
So there are two separate classes in Formula 3, the Championship class and the Scholarship class. But what are the differences? Essentially, the Championship class are new ones, and the Scholarship ones are at least 3 years old, no younger than 1998. So Nigel, what are the differences between your Championship car and Aaron Scott's Scholarship class?
Well, basically, a lot of the differences are, say, in the engine. Over the last few years, the engines have been developed more and more. The chassis itself is, again, a process of development. Over the 3 years, the car manufacturer develops the chassis.
Both Dalaras?
Yes, both Dallara chassis.
Are the aerodynamics different?
They are. The Championship class car will be more efficient in its aerodynamics. It won't necessarily go any quicker in a straight line, but it will go around the corners quicker because it has more downforce, so yes, it's a better car.
And next year, a new Dallara chassis. What are the changes going to be there?
There's some interesting changes. Probably the biggest change for us really is the 6-speed sequential gearbox, which is a new thing for Formula 3. Normally we use the old H-pattern box like in your road car, so that's going to be the biggest adjustment really, especially for the drivers and whatnot. There's wheel tethers like Formula 1, a few basic things like that, which has moved on with technology.
Thank you, Nigel. But to see how a Formula 3 car really should be pedalled around Croft, let's join former champion Kelvin Burt.
Here we are at Sunny, very important couple of corners linking the ultra-fast Barcroft section behind us with the infield section towards the end of the lap. The first part of this double corner is Sunny Inn, where we are here. Braking into this corner, balancing the entry speed, fighting the car a little bit. Then in between the two corners, squirt a throttle, resettle the car and put it into Sunny Out, which is a positively cambered, quite fast corner. Exit speed very important on that straight because a good overtaking opportunity is into the complex left-hander. So now let's look at a complete lap in an F3 car from a driver's point of view. Okay, here we are to start the lap with Gianmaria Bruni, the Italian, in his Fortec F3 car last season. Up through the box onto the pit straight, 3rd, 4th, 5th, bit of traffic on the left. Jimmy ideally wants to be on the left there. Jinks across, hard dab on the brakes, 4th gear, quite quick the first corner, Clervaux. Down to 3rd, very, very bumpy here through Hawthorns, trying to hold the car, up to 4th, flat out through the chicane using both the curbs. Be careful on the exit there, little drop off, up to 5th. Maybe the quickest part of the circuit here, probably 145 miles an hour, braking on the top of the brow there, down to 3rd for Tower, very important corner, leading out to the fast back section of the circuit, using the curb up to 4th. Up to 5th gear, flat through the left-hand kink here. We're also flat in the GT car, flat again in an F3 car. We have to lift a little bit for that one. Flat again in an F3 car, 140 miles an hour, very close to the barrier there. And into Sunny, which I've just described to you, in and out through the exit, very fast on the exit in 4th gear, soon up to 5th. Approaching the complex at the end of the lap. The first one's a 3rd gear, left-hander. abrupt turn in from Jimmy. Keep neat and tidy, very, very important through this section. Easy to overdrive the car. Brake early for the hairpin, don't overdrive it. Neat and tidy, a lot of steering lock, and power early to finish the lap, and hopefully that's a good lap for Jimmy Bruni.
Qualifying for round 9 started slowly. Half the field sitting out the first few minutes, allowing the others to drive round and dry out the damp track. But when it was time for some serious effort, familiar names rose to the top. Takuma Sato went quickest, just about the time his teammate André Davidson spun off at Sunny, fortunately without damage. A ragged Davidson went on to get within less than 100th of a second of Sato, but they were both beaten by Ulsterman Derek Hayes, who went a 10th quicker to claim his first pole of the 2001 season.
Brilliant job, team done super job. Yesterday in testing we were quick, and you know, to finish up today a pole is when it counts.
In the past, Dennis Russian looked after Martin Donnelly and the great Ayrton Senna. Now he's backing Derek Hayes' bid to follow Jenson Button into Formula One.
When he was racing against Jenson, he was the only one who could take it to Jenson, and he won the European Championship and almost won the English apart from an engine went. Until then, there was something very special about the boy. I mean, he doesn't come from a karting background, you know, he comes from stock cars, so a bit like Damon Hill, he's got to work at it harder than some of them, and you've been following him, and he's gradually chipping away at it, isn't he?
After his sensational pole in the first round, Jamie Spence has struggled to achieve good results, partly due to being in a one-car team.
It takes us twice as long to find something that's better, or, you know, we sort of, when we find something that's not so good, we go backwards. So, you know, we're desperate for a teammate. I think it would help me and the team.
Derek Hayes will start the first race on his first Formula 3 pole position, ahead of the Carlin drivers Sato and Davidson. Alan Docking Racing's Andy Priaulx will start 4th, ahead of Jaguar's Courtney, and that man, Jamie Spence, is in 6th position, teammate or not.
Robbie Kerr leads the scholarship class contenders ahead of series leader Matt Gilmore. Michael Keohan 3rd fastest, and Adam Blair just ahead of Mark Mayle.
Well, Derek Hayes has been Mr. Consistent so far. He's now got his first pole. Can he convert it into his first win? It's over to Ben and Martin.
Well, how many bank holiday racing days do you go to where you need sunscreen and a hat on? Another bank holiday Monday and more glorious weather at Croft for round 9 of the British Formula 3 Championship. Cars on the grid for the 20-minute first race. Red lights are on, a very quick change to green. Slow start from the Jaguar of James Courtney on row 3, but poleman Derek Hayes gets his nose in front of Takuma Sato, Anthony Davidson 3rd, right behind them Andy Priaulx, then Jamie Spence in 5th place, and Courtney in 6th. The dust is kicked up as they all weave their way through Clervaux. Have they made it through safely? We ride with Jamie Spence in that 5th place, checking his mirrors. James Courtney very close behind as they come up to Tower for the first time.
James Courtney coming under pressure from Bruce Giovanni. Giovanni goes through on the inside there at Tower, and that's a key place to get past. We now ride on board with Andy Priaulx in 4th position as we come through the Jim Clark S's. You can see the top 3 have got away slightly. Derek Hayes is our race leader.
Hayes leads them through Sunny. This is where Calvin was saying it's so important to be neat and tidy. Little lock-up from Bruce Giovanni. But all running wide further back, Matt Davis makes a big mistake, drops himself off onto the grass. Well, he's got the car settled down, but he must have lost 15 places there if he's lost 1. Carlin drivers 2nd and 3rd. Yellow car is Giovanni, then Courtney. Oh, and look at that, Nicolas Kiesa in the frost going inside Jeffrey Jones. Again, Kelvin said very easy to make a mistake there and allow someone past. And it looks as though Jeffrey Jones has done so. André Lotterer right behind him as they come onto the straight. And already Derek Hayes down in Clervaux, the first corner.
Very quick through there. You can see the car really being put under a lot of G-force, a lot of load. Now we ride back on board with Andy Priaulx in 4th position. Changes up into 5th gear, approaching Tower corner. They are at top speed here. Look at Derek Hayes just defending the line a little bit from Takuma Sato. And Hayes has made a mistake. He's gone wide. Sato is on the inside. This is a great opportunity for the Japanese driver to get past. But Hayes just manages to get back in front again as they come through the Jim Clark S. He's flat out through here. And Sato right in the wheel tracks of Hayes, trying desperately to make a move. But Hayes to the outside. Sato comes down. Oh, he's made the collision. They're out, both of them, onto the old circuit. And Hayes and Sato, battling for the lead, now have lost 3 or 4 places at least.
Classic wheel-to-wheel racing, and both of them coming off the worst there. Anthony Davidson now leads, yet to win a race this year, chased by Andy Priaulx, who has. Spence in 3rd, then Courtney in 4th place. And then up into 5th place goes Nicolas Kiesa in the Sportscar ahead of Sato. Bruce Giuani dives down the inside. I wonder if Sato's got a problem. Runs wide there. Battle further back as Jaguar driver Lotterer picks up places from Jeffrey Jones. And there's Mark Taylor, the Man of Motorsport man, who's a teammate to Jones and Hayes. And they've all had a bad second lap.
Giuani running in 6th, Sato is in 7th place, and then the rest, Lotterer, Bruni, Jones and Hayes down in 11th place now. After that incident with Takuma Sato, Davidson quite comfortably in front.
Well, look at Sato again here, right behind Bruce Giuani. He still seems to be going, but maybe phased, having missed 3 or 4 places there. Yellow flags are out there at Tower. You just saw the nose of the stricken car of Taylor, so no passing there. Let's see now, when they come down to Sunny, whether Sato can undo some of that earlier damage. Through come the top 5. There's Giuani under pressure. Oh, big lock-up back there from Gianmaria Bruni. Goes off onto the spare bit of tarmac, and he'll have to find a way back on, and we know that it took Derek Hayes a long time to do that. So Sato under pressure, Ben.
That's right, Sato also applying the pressure to Bruce Giuani and trying to make up some of that lost ground after the incident with Hayes, but the safety car is out, and I guess that's because of that stranded car of Mark Taylor on the curb at Tower.
That means Anthony Davidson's handsome lead has now evaporated as they all queue up behind the safety car. His teammate Takuma Sato there, back in 7th place. He's been accused of over-forceful driving in the past. Let's see what his team manager thinks.
Do you think really that sort of driving should be advocated?
I don't know, really. I don't know what happened with that incident, so I'll have to wait and see. But he's a forceful driver, and he's obviously fast, so motor racing's about overtaken, I thought.
Well, we've got the benefit of another look. Ben, what about this one?
Interesting. Derek Hayes had made the mistake at Tower. Sato was very close behind and then just made the move, but he wasn't alongside enough into Tower to take the position. So Hayes, I think, can be justifiably upset about that. And interestingly, both cars seem to get back on without damage.
Well, I take the devil's advocate position and say that maybe Hayes could have survived if he'd run a little wider on the exit. Anyway, Taylor's car now being pushed away. Anthony Davidson for Carlin Motorsport will lead as the safety car pulls off. And the question now, of course, is can he build up an advantage? Behind him, Andy Priaulx, Jamie Spence, James Courtney and the overtaking king, Nicolas Kiesa. We ride with Priaulx. At the restart, Ben, not close enough behind the race leader. That's a big mistake.
Yes, he was a little bit off, wasn't he? Anthony Davidson got away beautifully well here. Remember, Davidson has never won a race in the British Formula 3 Championship. He won the Formula Ford Festival towards the end of last year, but now he's got to put the experience he's gained this year into practice out in front.
Here's the scholarship class pole sitter, hitting a cone on the way through the chicane. Mark Mayle leads the class just ahead of Robbie Kerr there. And Dennis Russian, well, reflecting on a poor race so far for Hayes. His worst finish so far has been 8th at Alton. Now he's down in 10th, right behind Jeffrey Jones in the number 2 car.
Yes, his teammate. I wonder if his teammate's going to help him out here. Jeffrey Jones, the American, just ahead of Derek Hayes. And I wonder if... Oh, no, in fact, he keeps reasonably well out of the way as they come into the hairpin. So Derek Hayes is able to move up into 9th position. But it's still going to be tough for him to score decent points here.
Here's Mark Mayle leading in scholarship class ahead of pole man Robbie Kerr. Then Adam Blair in 3rd place. Matt Gilmore, the points leader, in 4th. And, ooh, a little slide wide there by Robbie Kerr. Bounced all over the road coming out of the corner. There is Gilmore going through. Robbie Kerr seems to have gone... No, he hasn't gone on safely. In fact, he slid very wide on the grass there. And everybody being very careful not to spin out there as they try and rejoin, but he's dropped right down the order.
Now, here's an earlier instance in the scholarship class. On the outside there, that's Robert Doornbos, and there was a little bit of contact with Adam Blair as he went out. They were battling for 3rd in class.
Here is the main field coming through then, and there Nicolas Kiesa now under pressure himself in the complex, down into the hairpin. He takes the racing line. Sato slides down the inside, everything locked up, gets away with this. If you get in there deep enough, you can block the exit, and Sato manages to do so. Jamie Spence in 3rd place. The Duma driver under pressure from James Courtney in 4th. Sato 5th ahead of Kiesa and Bruce Giuani in 7th place. And it's Anthony Davidson, Sato's teammate, who leads. There is Derek Hayes in 8th, André Lotterer and Jeffrey Jones in 9th and 10th. Jones started well up, but he's been dropping positions slowly but surely. Not a problem for Anthony Davidson, romping away from Andy Priaulx in 2nd place. A half-second advantage at the restart now, 10 times that. And Ben, he's really found some race pace here.
Yeah, fantastic from Anthony Davidson. We've still got yellow flags down at Sunny. That's probably because of the car of Robert Doornbos off at the side of the track. And meanwhile, Bruce Giuani has Derek Hayes trying to make up a little bit of ground. There's Takuma Sato. After that initial incident, he has driven well in his attempts to move up through the field. He's had to be aggressive, and he's done okay so far. Jamie Spence, meanwhile, making a move on Andy Priaulx at the hairpin. It doesn't quite come off, or does it? Priaulx going a little bit wide, and now they're side by side as they come down across the line.
Well, Priaulx's got his nose in front, and he's got the advantage of the inside line, and Spence will have to be careful. James Courtney looking down the inside as well. Jamie Spence slow there, down the straight, or maybe just giving Courtney some racing room. Let's see what happens with Sato. Well, replay here, Ben. Again, Spence lunging to the inside, and that's his undoing because he doesn't get the job done.
Yeah, that's always the risk of the hairpin. You go so slowly on that inside line. He just couldn't get the power down, and he was overtaken by another one as well.
Well, Courtney running out wide at the exit, and that gave him better drive. Now he's right with Priaulx. He did get passed by Sato as well, Jamie Spence. In fact, Spence has dropped right out of this lead group. There's Derek Hayes coming past Bruce Giuani. Spence not visible there at all, and that's because he's in the pits. Well, he clearly had a problem, possibly as a result of that earlier incident.
Well, that's a great disappointment because this is the most competitive run we've seen from Jamie since the start of the year, really. So that is a shame. Up front, Anthony Davidson, look at the lead he has. A absolutely superb drive from him today.
Well, he had his first ever pole position at Oulton Park, failed to win there, but it looks as though Croft will be an awful lot happier. It'll be a good bank holiday Monday afternoon for him for certain if he can win this. And for Sato, well, still aggressive. This man really does make overtaking opportunities just happen. And James Courtney had really better watch his mirrors down the straight. Courtney jinks to the inside line on the right-hand side very early, forcing Sato to go around the outside, and he'll do it too. If you call his bluff like that, he will go with it every time. That was brave stuff there, but luckily they avoided touching wheels.
That's right, there's really only room for one car at a time through Clairvaux, but Takuma Sato determined to try and make it two cars. Didn't quite come off, but he still survives. And look behind them, by the way. Chiesa, Giuani, and then Hayes. So Hayes has lost a place here. We're on the final lap, and Hayes has lost championship points. I don't think he's going to be able to do much about it now, though.
Well, behind Priaulx, the battle for the podium still on. Sato going for third place. Sunny, and then perhaps the complex, maybe two more overtaking opportunities. Again, very close to Courtney, and this may well come down to the final hairpin and an outbraking manoeuvre. So Courtney had better have a very wide car and very big mirrors. Davidson through the complex for the final time. This will be his first Formula 3 victory. Even if he loses half the gearbox here, he can chug across the line. And what a moment to savour. Anthony Davidson winning by a huge margin in the first race at Croft. Behind him, similarly safe is Andy Priaulx. But let's go back for that battle. There's Bruce Giuani on the curbs, and there is Hayes recovering. So there's been an incident there as Hayes has tried to get a place back. Giuani will lose that position. In fact, he will lose several positions. He's obviously made contact there, and Mark Mayle winning in the scholarship class from 5th on the grid.
Anthony Davidson taking his first win ahead of Andy Priaulx, James Courtney. Takuma Sato holding on to 4th ahead of Chiesa and Jones, with Derek Hayes down in 10th. Mark Mayle wins the scholarship class, but for the pole sitter Robbie Kerr, he had problems. He ended up finishing down in 7th place.
Many congratulations. Great to see you up here.
Yeah, it's taken a long time, but we got here in the end, so yeah, really, really happy.
Yeah, after the two guys in front of me fell off, then it was quite easy. The car was good all the way through right to the end, and yeah, the team's done a great job this weekend. Let's go for another one in the second one.
Well, to find out how Anthony does in the second one, join us again after the break.
Welcome back to Motorsport on 4 and qualifying for round 10 of the green flag British F3 Championship, where it was the mixture as before in the top 3. Derek Hayes made it a brilliant double pole weekend, while this time the slightly over-enthusiastic Anthony Davidson beat his teammate Takuma Sato. But if the best were consistent, what were the excuses for the big-name teams behind them, as neither driver from Jaguar or Alan Docking Racing could do better than 10th?
We're struggling this session, yeah. The first one, Andy was doing pretty good, but this one is just trying to find that lap. After changing to the new rubber, it's working pretty well, but it's just finding the lap, really.
Around here, it is very, very difficult when you've got 34 cars around a very short, tight, twisty circuit like this. And he's found he's climbing all over the back of the Class B guys. I can't knock them for being there because they're doing a job as well. But we just picked the wrong moment to go out, and we fell foul of them.
Derek Hayes, in his own words, continues to make his own luck. Pole position ahead of Davidson, the Race 1 winner. Sato in third, ahead of Milos Pavlovic, a great performance from the Yugoslav. Jamie Spence is in fifth place, and Nicolas Kiesa, a pole sitter last year at Croft, in sixth. Robbie Kerr again on top of the scholarship class, ahead of Gilmore and Kyohan. Judas in fourth place, ahead of Race 1 winner Mail.
Now let's take a look at the highlights of round 10 of the Green Flag British Formula 3 Championship with Martin and Ben.
Derek Hayes came to the line hoping for better fortune than in race 1. His second pole, perhaps now a chance to convert it into a win. Strong wind and the threat of rain in the air, but the tarmac fortunately dry as the red lights went to green. A slow getaway from Hayes, but a stall by Davidson. Potential disaster. Amazingly, everyone got by. His teammate Sato took the lead from Jamie Spence in the first corner. Hayes down in third, while Priaulx was clattered out by Pavlovic.
Most of the rest of the field survived, although Mail was thrown into the air. When the dust settled, Andy Priaulx recovered, but not for long, and Milos Pavlovic retired on the spot.
The pattern was set at the front. Sato leading from Spence and Hayes, then Chiesa, Giuani and Bruni completing the top six. Kerr led the scholarship class from pole, but was under pressure from a recovering Davidson, up to 12th by the end.
By halfway through the race, the clouds were delivering a steady drizzle. Not enough to call off the race, but uncomfortable for all concerned.
Rainmaster Sato was in control, easing away from Spence and Hayes. The only change in the top six, Bruni had moved into fifth, past Giuani.
After 15 minutes running, the rain worsened, and Sato seemed to be in just the sort of conditions he loves. He was pulling away up front. Behind him, though, problems for Jamie Spence. He lost it in a big way at Clairvaux, bouncing across the track and nearly taking out Hayes as well.
Well, that was the signal that the stewards needed. The red flags were put out and the race was called to a halt. Conditions just too dangerous. And all that meant the uninjured Spence was reinstated to second, where he'd been at the end of the last completed lap.
Confirmation then. Takuma Sato taking the fourth win of the season. Jamie Spence with his best result despite going off at the end. Derek Hayes finishing third.
Scholarship poleman Robbie Kerr claimed the victory. Race 1 winner Mark Mell was fifth and points leader Matt Gilmore 10th.
In the beginning, it wasn't so bad. Actually, the rain cooled down the temperature. I mean, getting more grip. But even so after that, it's more coming rain. It's getting slippier, of course. So, really be careful in a couple of last laps.
Oh, it was pretty good. At the end, the weather came, it started to drizzle, and it's like, how hard do you push? And you're having to think about it all the time, watching the gap between me and second place man. And I think I got it just about right that time.
Well, Robbie may have judged it right. Jamie Spence, it seems, didn't. The car was damaged, but how was he after the race?
I'm fine. Obviously disappointed that the car wasn't come back in one piece. Reasonable result. You know, if we'd have brought the car in one bit, we'd have been very happy. But a lot of damage, unfortunately. But you know, credit to the guys. The car was good, but you know, I do feel that they should have stopped the race maybe one lap earlier.
Takuma Sato leads the points from Derek Hayes, but both drivers were excluded from race 1. Sato for his move on Hayes, Hayes for a move on Giuani. Sato's disqualification has been appealed. Despite winning here at Croft, Robbie Kerr drops to 4th in the points after an exclusion at Alton Park for a collision with Tim Spouge. So Ben, what about those exclusions in the first race then?
Well, there was no quarrel with Derek Hayes being kicked out for clattering into Bruce Giuani. He said himself it was red mist time. But the reason for the red mist was the move that Sato pulled on him at Sunny. Now, Hayes made the mistake at Tower. Sato got down the inside of him, but he couldn't make that move count through the next part of the track, which is flat out. He was very close as they approached Sunny. Hayes left the door open, and that was all the invitation Sato ever needs.
What do you think they totted up, in effect, incidents that Sato had earlier at the season at Silverstone and Donington?
Well, I don't think so, Martin. Sato has been involved in one or two incidents, but he's a real racer. I mean, remember this move at Alton Park on Matt Davis? It was beautiful. Down into Cascades, he is a racer, and the stewards must only ever consider one incident as it happens. Back at Croft, and Hayes made the mistake at Tower. He'd already made one mistake. Sato perhaps didn't need to try and capitalise on this one. He could have had another one later on. Hayes showed that he's not about to be intimidated by Sato, though, and showed that he will shut the door when he feels he has the line to a corner.
So all in all, a controversial weekend for Derek Hayes and Takuma Sato. Now it's time to turn our attention to the GTs, and we'll take a quick look at the season so far up to Alton Park.
So far this year, the GTO class has been dominated by Porsches, but Oulton Park demonstrated that after just 4 races, the new TVR Tuscan R run by Dennis Leach is becoming a realistic challenger.
Well, like any new car, you have your minor teething problems to start with. Ours was the first car out of the factory, and we expected a few problems, but I have to say, you know, it's a supercar, and it's come on extremely well from the start, really.
Croft saw the arrival of a second Tuscan R from Martin Short, who appreciated this is a very different animal from the Cerbera he developed last year.
The Tuscan R is a race car that's been made into a road car, whereas the Cerbera was a road car that we turned into a race car. This car is very stiff. It's got it's designed to run at a 50mm ride height, whereas the Cerbera couldn't go that low. It's got a honeycombed stressed floor. It's got 30% less drag, it's got 20% more downforce, it's 120 kilos lighter, it's got a lower centre of gravity, got a better designed manifold, and it should go like stink.
Martin Short's hope for his new Tuscan R were dashed in qualifying after barely a lap.
I think the oil pump's gone. Only did 3 laps, and we lost all oil pressure. So we're scratching our heads at the moment. It might be something simple, but I don't think so. I think it's an engine change, which means we'll have to start from the back of the grid.
Their disappointment was compounded when the other Tuscan R grabbed the GTO pole position for the first time.
Well done.
Have we done it? We're on pole. First time. Oh, brilliant. That's really good. That's a good feeling. We've worked hard for it.
It wasn't a worry to the GTO points leader, Kelvin Burt.
On that lap, my best lap, I made a big mistake, so I'm not too worried about the pace of the TVR, which we know is a quick car anyway. So I think I'm still confident for tomorrow, but we're near enough.
In the GT class, the lone TVR Speed 12 was unable to do better than third, not helped by this Bobby Verdenroe indiscretion. After one qualifying session, the Lister crew were reasonably confident of their first pole.
This is the best car I've ever driven in my life. It's just a fantastic thing. But no, if we do hold on to it, that's our first pole, and the car's fantastic around here. We've made a few changes since Oulton Park, and it's really, really impressive to drive around.
But in the end, it was Tim Harvey who claimed a 5th straight pole position in the Viper. For the race, he was keen to avoid any more endorsements for aggressive driving after clashing with the Ferrari at Oulton.
Yes, I am. I'm going to drive really carefully. I've read up on the highway code, studied everything about it. I'm not too sure about roundabouts and traffic lights, but as I'm not doing the start, I should be all right. I'm going to stay out of everybody's way and hopefully still win the race.
Including the Ferrari?
Yeah, definitely the Ferrari.
Tim Harvey continues his unbroken run of poles in the Viper from the Lister and the TVR. And the Tuscan R takes the GTO pole ahead of the Franchitti Burt Porsche and the GTO Viper. Join us for the race after the break as we return in Motorsport on 4.
Welcome back to Motorsport on 4. Now, before we take a look at the GT race, the BRDC have put a fantastic selection of support races together, and I joined in with one of them a little earlier on, the TVR Tuscans.
The Tuscans were headed to the grid by Troy Dunlop. The track was dry for the feature event, although it had been wet and greasy for the qualifier. Dunlop won from Steve Guglielmi, and those pair would head up the field as they start the feature the way they finished the qualifier. And that left our woman, Amanda Stretton, back in 20th place on the grid, right behind TVR chairman Peter Wheeler, who loaned her the car for the weekend, justifiably anxious about unleashing 450 horsepower once more. And she was the least anxious on the grid. Red lights ready to go to green, a clean start by the front row men. Dunlop not fast enough away, getting brushed down into the first corner as Darren Dowling took the lead from Steve Guglielmi, his teammate. Everybody was safely through Clervaux, although undoubtedly a bit of bumping and boring, Amanda staying well clear of that. At the hairpin, though, things were different. The lead pair managed to get through safely, but Richard Finney tangled with Jay Shepherd. Well, Finney was left stranded in the track. Fortunately, everybody, including Amanda, managed to avoid him. Well, the Tuscan, roughly 4 times more powerful than Amanda's regular historic racer, but she was still enjoying herself, and she wasn't last. Andrew Delahunty had pitted. Well, she wasn't last until the final lap, that was, when the regular front-running teenager was hot on her heels and looking for a way past. And in the end, well, Amanda has always been a gallant racer. She allowed Andrew through and claimed a valiant last place. At the other end of the field, Troy Dunlop won from Steve Guglielmi as Darren Dowling dropped down to third, and you can see more of that on our late night Motorsport on 4. That will be airing on Monday, the 2nd of July.
Well, I can now safely say I love TBRs. That really was sensational. They're incredibly fast, it's incredibly bumpy, but I'm smiling.
There was drizzle at the end of the F3 race, but now it is raining properly as we get ready for the GT race, and that means everyone changing tyres on the grid from slicks to wet. But in the pit lane, Mike Jordan has brought the Lister in, and Lawrence Pierce is changing the settings as well as the tyres. The British crowd has come well prepared for bad weather on a bank holiday Monday.
Well, at least the bivouac will stop them getting burned by the sun. Rob Wilson in the Viper leading round Bobby Verdenroe in the TBR. Then the Tuscan R in third place as the Lister starts from the pit lane, ready for the rolling start. Wilson keeping the field under control, not exactly 2 by 2. They're pretty much line astern heading down to the first corner. But that might help as Kelvin Burt dives down into third place in the white Porsche. Over the curbs goes Rob Wilson, loses the lead right from the start.
Yeah, Rob Wilson just carried a bit too much speed into Clairvaux and ran wide, and that has allowed Bobby Verdenroe to go ahead in the TBR. The Porsche is running well. Kelvin Burt up into third. Looking down, we can see the car of Matt Turner in 7th position, the number 54 car.
Well, the GTO cars well up the order, and we've seen them fare very well in the rain before, Ben. As you say, the big, heavy GT cars tend to have too much horsepower for the slippery conditions. There's the Quaife going through, and looking further back, even the Lister starting from the pit lane has not made much of an impression on the GTO field at this stage. Bobby Verdenroe easing away. Obviously, Rob Wilson in the Viper not quite finding the grip that he needed. Doesn't seem to be troubling BVR.
We're on board with Rob Wilson in second, and he's gone wide here at Sunny. Now, this is the corner Kelvin Burt was showing us earlier on, and now we've got a load of muck over the camera lens. I don't think we're going to get any very good pictures out of that. Rob Wilson has dropped back.
Well, he hasn't lost a position, though. He's still ahead of Kelvin Burt. There's Kelvin Burt, the white Porsche, in third. Tim Sugden making a move on the TBR Tuscan R goes up into fourth place overall, and we're just behind that battle. We're on board with Philip Hopkins in the Quaife.
Oh, and there's been contact. He's made contact with Ben Devlin's Viper as they come through the right-hander, and he's stricken. I think he's still got the engine running. He should be able to restart in the Quaife. And he does get back onto the grass, but look at that, scooping up all the mud, and that can always cause overheating problems.
Well, we haven't seen much of the Quaife this year, but he's in trouble there. Martin Short right behind in the Tuscan R, but did you see the Lister went through ahead of him there? There is the Lister. Now, Dave Warnock starting right at the back. This is a very steep hill for the Lister team to climb, with Bobby Verdenroe already romping away at the front of the field in the TBR Speed 12.
Well, the shorts for Hugh Chamberlain, keeping an eye on the Vipers. He spent too long on the continent, forgotten about the British weather, I think.
Not a pretty sight. There's his Viper in second, ahead of the two Porsches, third and fourth. Now, with the rain, is this a race that the GTO cars can win outright, perhaps?
We're on board with Philip Hopkins in the Quaife. First drive of the season as it was knocked off at Donington on the first lap and didn't make Oulton Park at all. And now coming up behind the Lister, under braking, looking for a way past. There's the silver Quaife down the inside, and it looks as though he's going to make the move stick. Takes 12th place. The four-wheel drive of that Quaife working extremely well in these conditions.
Well, of course, boss Mick Quaife designed and built the car, and also the transmission, a real four-wheel drive and high-performance transmission expert. The Lister Storm with its front-mounted V12 engine also at a weight disadvantage. Now Kelvin Burt really piling on the pressure onto Rob Wilson in the Viper for second place, and in this slower part, Ben, the traction of the Porsche a big advantage to him.
It is, but look at Tim Sugden right behind him. Kelvin Burt's got a battle on his hands here because Tim Sugden, oh, and the Quaife has spun, the Quaife has lost it. What a shame, he was going so well.
Well, Hopkins regains once more in the tight, twisty section behind the 360 Ferrari and the Lister. And let's see if that four-wheel drive can help him ease his way back up the order once more. But as you were saying, Ben, the two Porsches there battling for third place. Well, here they are again.
Kelvin Burt just in control of this battle at the moment. Third place for him. Tim Sugden in fourth position. These are two former touring car stars who used to race against each other in that category, and now they've got very similar Porsche GTO cars here to battle in. And Tim Sugden keeping the pressure on. We're on board now with Kelvin Burt. Always the visibility a problem in these conditions. But look, right, oh, and he's gone wide. Kelvin has gone off at the very corner he was showing us earlier on today. And that's, let's just see, he's rejoining. He's on the old circuit. That's good the old circuit's there because it's given him a chance to get back on again.
Yeah, rather embarrassing for Kelvin, though. Loses that place to Tim Sugden, who does most of his racing now in the FIA GT Championship. Well, Ben, let's have a look at that one again.
Coming into Tower, he's on the brakes and he locks the front. See, you can't steer once you've got the front wheels locked up, so he comes off the brakes, but he's onto the old circuit, still going pretty quickly, cross the grass and back onto the track.
How embarrassing. He's second in class. We're now riding with Sean Balfe, ninth in class. Ahead is David Jones. Looks down the inside in the pale blue car at Tower. Just about avoiding contact there. David Jones keeping his nose clean, but still fighting the position. And like in the Formula 3 race, down the inside, not as quick on the way out, Ben. He loses the place there because of that lunge.
That's right. So Adam Jones getting involved in that battle as well in car number 51. So the three-way battle between those Porsches continues, and we'll see whether they can make any progress here into Tower. Oh, and Adam Jones goes very, very wide. I don't know what kind of line that was. Again, he just braked too late, tried to go in too fast, and straightened it all up.
Yeah, paying too much attention to Kelvin Burt, it'll get you every time. Martin Short waiting for his brand new car to come round. They're in about 14th place, but still going at least. This is Rob Balfe in that Tuscan R, not wanting to take any risks. He had a monster shunt in the new Cerbera at Tower at Croft last year.
Great to see that other Tuscan R out here this weekend. Rob Wilson still holding on to second place, but dropping way back. But look at this bunch of cars he's in with, trying to lap Alex Pilgrim, and the Porsches of Burt and Sugden right behind, side by side up into the hairpin, and Wilson trying to fend off these two GTO cars. They're still side by side. There isn't really room for that round the hairpin, but Sugden is and still ahead of Kelvin Burt.
And unlike in the Formula 3s again, they got side by side and made it work. Now the power of the Viper starting to pull away there on the straight, getting them out of the clutches of those Porsches. Ben, that suggests to me that the rear-mounted engine of the Porsche, that extra traction isn't helping. It may be drying out. Tim Harvey's arguing, I think he's saying, get the car in now as soon as possible.
Yes, and assessing the weather conditions as well. Now, here's a replay just a few moments ago. On board with Sean Balfe. Look to the right, you can see Richard Stanson's Tuscan R slowing down. Looks as though that car is out of the race.
Well, tough luck for the GTO poleman. GT poleman still under pressure. Tim Sugden comes around the outside. The indicators are on the Viper now. Does that mean Rob Wilson has just twigged it, or is he coming into the pits? Yes, in he comes. They must wait 20 minutes into the race to make sure that their pit is legal, and in they come. And the Lister is ready to come in as well. Lawrence Pierce standing there with Mike Jordan as the Viper comes down. Hugh Chamberlain bringing the car to a halt. Tim Harvey will get in, and surely this will be a case for a change of tyres onto slicks.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what they choose to do. There's a bit of mud to clear out from the front. Now, look, the list are definitely going for slicks. So they've decided to go for the dry weather tyre. But what have they done with the Viper? Well, I think they've left it on the wet. So interesting change of tactics, or difference in tactics between these teams.
Well, don't forget that the Lister crew also race in the FIA races, where they do 2 pit stops in every race. They've got plenty of practice, and even with a tyre stop, that's a fairly rapid change around. And the Viper, well, if it dries out any more, they may have to come back in. But then we've forgotten our race leader, Bobby Verden-Rowe, still plunging on in the TVR.
That's right, he's still out there. Meanwhile, Kelvin Burt's come in a little early, and they are changing onto slick, so he's decided to go for the dry weather tyre.
Well, that's a brave choice, but I think Kelvin Burt and Marino Franchitti can probably handle that. Here is the TVR Tuscan R, still going strongly. David Jones in 6th place, and Rob Balfe trying to take that from him. Amanda's in the pits with Dave Warnock.
The car's all right, and you've taken a gamble putting it on slicks.
Yeah, we have. It's all we could do in the situation. It depends how quickly Mike can get some temperature into them. There is a dry line out there. There's also a very wet one. So as long as he doesn't have to pass the slower GTO cars, we may be okay.
Well, Ben, a very impressive drive from Warnock. Started from the pits and yet was almost within 10 seconds of Rob Wilson when he came in.
We're keeping an eye on the Lister. You know, the TVR can sort of for the moment do what it's like, and we're just keeping it up against the Lister because there's our points problem. So now it's going to dry out. It's probably going to be a different race, you know, in the second half here somewhere. So, you know, we may get a car back.
Well, the Lister, I think, has just gone out on slicks now.
I know, and it's a gamble. It might just about work. I think still stay on these for me, but, you know, we'll see what happens.
Thanks.
Oh, and it looks like he might be proved wrong, because Tim Harvey coming into the pits now with the Viper, and surely this, unless he's got a mechanical problem, must be to change onto slick tyres. It looks as though Warnock and Mike Jordan took the gamble and it paid off, because now, look, they've had to make an extra stop for these tyres.
Well, you could see Tim Harvey arguing with Hugh Chamberlain earlier on, Ben, and I'm sure Tim would have wanted to gamble on the slicks, but look, that's the race leader. Bobby Verde in the TVR sliding all over the road. His tyres are shot. Now, the Lister lost a lap with its pit stop, so in actual fact, Mike Jordan is a lap behind the race leader, but that shows that Verde has stayed out far too long on his wets.
Yeah, that car's all over the place. Here comes Mike Jordan trying to get down the inside and the second part of the complex, and off the road goes Bobby Verde onto the grass, and that's going to take more time away. Surely he's coming into the pits this time around.
Well, I think that's miscuing by the TVR for staying out too long, and by the Viper for not changing when they had the chance to make a gamble. They will both kick themselves now because the Lister made the brave choice, and unless it rains, they will look like heroes.
Michael Caine will come back out on the TVR. It depends how quick those TVR mechanics are in changing onto slick tyres here. Absolutely crucial stop.
Well, you're so right, Ben. Don't forget that the other cars have lost a lap in their pit stops, and unless this is lightning fast, the TVR will lose a lap as well. Bobby's out, Michael Caine's getting in. They've already changed the fronts. They're coming round to the rears. The Lister on its way, and well warmed up slick tyres underneath him.
Mike Jordan's absolutely flying now. Lap times down to 1 minute 23 compared to 1 minute 32 for Bobby Verde before he stops. Now, Michael Caine ready to go out. Will they get out in front of the Lister as it comes round? We wait to see where the Lister is on the track. There it is, just coming into the hairpin, so it's got to run down past the pits, but will that TVR be out ahead of them?
Well, the TVR must be. He's got a couple of slower cars to negotiate, Mike Jordan, and TVR already well on its way down to Clairvaux. So there is the race between the TVR that leads with Michael Caine and Mike Jordan up to speed and absolutely on it, as you so rightly said, in the Lister Storm. And here's where it's going to change, surely, as Jordan chases Caine for all he's worth.
Caine's tyres are cold. There are no tyre warmers, so his slick tyres are cold. He's trying to get some temperature on. You could see the car twitching, and Jordan had to give it a big lift. He almost ran into the back of the TVR there. Coming up towards Tower, he's on the inside line. No problem at all on the hot slicks, and he can turn in and get ahead. So great move from Mike Jordan to take the lead.
So the TVR drops to second, and Amanda's with Bobby Verde.
Bobby, well, you've unfortunately just lost your lead to the Lister.
So I hear, yeah. Unfortunate, but still got another half hour to go, so, you know, hopefully we'll be able to get it back. Probably not, but you never know.
In the pits now is the Tim Sugden Porsche. Now, this was leading GTO. It's just been passed by the Hales Viper. Paul Knapfield taking the car out, a rather leisurely pit stop.
Tim, well, it's been long since I spoke to you. How was it out there?
Yeah, it was good to start with. But it was obviously a big decision on the grid, and I wish we'd left it on slicks, because it's amazing how much grip there actually was, but we all put wets on. But it was good fun. It was a good fight with Kelvin. We swapped to the lead a couple of times, and but at the end there was no tyres left.
So that's why the Hales Viper took the GTO lead. Oh, we've got the Ferrari spinning. That's Neil Woodford in trouble again, and that's not a very comfortable place to spin. That's at Croft, one of the fastest corners on the track.
Mike Jordan coming around through the complex down to the hairpin to start another lap. And the Lister looking very much in control of this race as long as the rain doesn't return and throw in some more pit stops. Oh my goodness me! Oh, well, there is Paul Knapfield. He's been hit by a reversing Alex Pilgrim, the Marcus, backwards across the grass. Nothing either of them could have done about that one. The moment Pilgrim lost it, he was just a passenger. There's the Ferrari ahead of Godfrey Jones. Marino Franchitti leading the GTO class, now taken that back from the Viper. 35 seconds ahead of his teammate Ed Horner. So the two park cars first and second, and out comes the safety car. And that's probably as a result of that crash we just saw with the Porsche and the Marcus.
So this will bunch everybody up together again. Mike Jordan has driven a superb stint in the Lister. Let's just take a look at a replay of what happened to Pilgrim. Ran wide onto the grass, and now, of course, on wet grass there's nothing you can do. Here comes Woodford round the corner, and wow, there goes the spinning Marcos right across in front of him.
Unguided missile, lucky escape for Woodford. Now safety car off, away goes the Lister and the TVR. The Viper there, fourth across the line, but in third place behind that back mark and Marcus. The three black GT cars almost nose to tail. Let's see who's got the best car in the closing stages with conditions and tyres equal.
Tim Harvey has taken pole position for every race this year, so we know he's fast. Oops, somebody just getting a bit near the grass there. We're riding on board now with Mark Sumter, third in the GTO class, right behind the Ultima, and in fact getting past the Ultima.
Just a couple of cars ahead. There's the Lotus that went off at Clairvaux. That's Robert Ross. Past him goes Horner, he's second in GTO, and the pale blue and dark blue car, that's Sumpter, third in the class.
Back at the front, and it's just a straightforward battle now between Mike Jordan, Michael Caine and Tim Harvey. The top three cars still very close together.
Well, Marino Franchitti's already gone through in the GTO lead, some way back to second place, and that's his teammate. Now here is the Viper, 5 straight poles. Will they be able to convert this one into a win? At the moment, it looks as though this will be a Lister TVR battle to the line, but anything can happen, and probably still will.
We heard Mike Jordan talking about just how good the Lister is. They've made some modifications to it. He's very happy indeed. Meanwhile, here comes Martin Short up on the inside as he continues around in that new Tuscan R, trying to get past Neil Woodford.
Well, they're both 2 laps down. They're battling for 9th place, and right behind is the battle for 5th place overall and 2nd in the GTO class, with Horner just ahead of Sumpter. Well, Martin Short manages to get past Woodford's Ferrari. He goes up into 9th and accelerates away.
Back to the overall leaders, and it looks good for Mike Jordan. Michael Caine can't quite stay with him, and Tim Harvey further back.
It's not gone according to plan A, B or C at the moment.
Thanks
We're
to you.
still going. Let's hope for another 50 seconds we'll keep it on the circuit.
Thanks to you.
Dying seconds of the race then. Marino Franchitti leads GTO by 15 seconds. Another dominant performance. And of course their main rivals taken out in this bizarre incident after Sugden had done such a great job, and that filled the innocent victim of the spinning Marcus.
Yeah, Alex Pilgrim was the one going backwards. Unfortunately, it put them both out. But let's get back to our race leader, because he's going to come round this time to take the checkered flag. Mike Jordan heading for the Lister's 3rd victory of the season.
Well, that's quite some turnaround, considering, of course, that they started from the pit lane. But inspired tyre choice and good pit work, slightly subdued celebrations by the Lister team. I think the Viper team will be more disappointed to have lost that one. Disappointed too, the TVR team. They could have won it, but in the end, they finished 2nd, still their best result of the year.
In the GTO class, Burt and Franchitti won again from teammates Turner and Horner. Balfe and Sumpter 3rd. The Devlin Hales Viper was 4th.
I didn't think we were going to do that. We'd had a little tactical error there at the beginning, but David drove really well to get back up, I think, to 6th before he gave it to me, and Lawrence and I were umming and ahhing literally as he was coming down the hairpin, and we looked at each other and said, yeah, let's go for the balls, he called, and put it on slicks, and it was just the right thing to do, because I guess some of the others had to pit again later, so did it.
Congratulations again, a very exciting race.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of standing there waiting for sort of half an hour to come round and go out, do a bit of driving, and after 40 minutes, that was it. We were in, and tyre change and everything. It was all kind of F1. It was a bit scary.
The Lister team's 3rd win gives them the advantage over the Viper drivers. Reigning champion Callum Lockie drops further back. He's not started the last 2.
With 3 wins out of the 5 races, Kelvin Burt and Marino Franchitti have a comfortable advantage in the GTO class.
So an absolutely blinding GT race and the perfect finish to our weekend up here at Croft. Next up on the Powertour calendar, we're going to the new Rockingham circuit near Corby. Now this is an oval that we're going to be racing on the road track. It's going to be a real leveler. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
In fact, it's Speedway from Cardiff next Saturday at 11. For the latest news of all the race series shown on 4, in-depth coverage of the run-up to Le Mans and the chance to win a drive to Le Mans in a sports car, log on to 4car.co.uk. Next, canine humour with the Family Guy.